Well, welcome to today's webinar featuring human resources professionals who make hiring decisions on a daily basis. These experts will share their advice, perspective, and insight with us so that we can learn how to give ourselves the best advantages possible in the job search. My name is Yasmin Arevalo. I'm a senior business major at LRU, and I also serve as Career Education Officer here at the Career Center. And we'll have a time for questions at the end of the discussion. So we'll leave those and we'll open the floor later for students to come in and ask any questions that they want. As I introduce each panelist, they will tell us a brief overview of their position and their responsibilities within their organization. So let's start with Cindy Cross. Welcome, Cindy.
Thank you very much. My name is Cindy Cross. I'm the manager of recruitment and retention here at Blue Ridge. And my job is kind of very encompassing. I, of course, hire people, interview people, work with shadowing, help to do some job placement, teaching, rewriting job descriptions. But some of the other things I do that a lot of other people don't realize in human resources is I'm predicting what the future is going to be, where our needs are going to be. If we have people that are approaching the retirement age, so that I can have recruitment, but also I work towards the retention as well. So it's kind of a many hats, but it's always my pleasure to be with your group. I just love y'all to death.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us. And then next we have Samantha Howe. Welcome, Samantha.
Thank you, Yasmin. I appreciate it. And I couldn't agree more with what was said. We do predict the future, but responsible for hiring, benefits, retention, recruiting, counseling, making some difficult decisions from time to time, certainly. And on the strategic front of it, of just planning and utilizing the most important asset any company has, which is the people to execute the strategy of the company. That's what we do.
Thank you, Samantha. But thank you again for taking your time to join us. Let's get started with some of the questions that we have lined up. I'll ask a question and I'll ask each panelist to respond individually. So we'll start with the first question. So how does the hiring process typically work at your organization? Specifically, does your company use applicant tracking systems? And explain what that is.
Okay. Do you care who goes first? Or?
Oh, no, anyone can go.
Okay. Well, for us, we do have an applicant tracking system. We use what's called Position Manager, which is through HelpSource. And in the spring, we're probably going to move to a different platform, but that is what we use. Applicants can actually apply online. That's how our positions are posted. That's how our managers request those positions, and they get approval to post them. Applicants apply online. We have applications all the way back to 2007, believe it or not, even our interview notes, and we're able to track a multitude of different things. For us, the initial thing is we start with an interview in human resources. This is typically by phone, just to make sure that the applicant is meeting the requirements, that they understand what the job truly is, just a multitude of different things. For us, then that application goes on to the management team where they will do an interview, plus they will have a peer team to do an interview. And we have very specific questions that have been developed for every position within our organization. And we follow up on those questions to make sure they really work and that they are providing us with what we really need to know. Once that management team has made a decision as to whom they want to hire, they reach back through that computer system and they will actually notify us. We begin checking references. We make offers contingent upon urine drug screen, criminal background check, and other things that may apply. We schedule the individual in for whatever education program. We start an initial, everyone in connections, that's our orientation into our system. And then from there, it breaks out as to what they may be. If it's a nurse, they may have direct care provider, nursing skills day, a multitude of different things. So each of the different jobs have different educational paths that they may have to follow and work through. We follow these individuals, the 30, the 90, the 180, plus then we watch annually, continuously.
Perfect. Thank you, Sydney. And now Samantha.
Yes, so we do certain positions, applicants are tracked. We do have a lot of hourly plant positions that are not tracked. We use a system called Team Talent for certain positions that we have at our company where people can apply online. We're more of, if you imagine a manufacturing-based company where we're receiving hundreds of applications, and so those are logged into our system. We have applications, because we are a publicly traded company and we are an affirmative action company. We do have to log every application that comes into our facility, and certain metrics are reported because of that process. But clearly there has to be a need, right? That's what starts everything. There has to be a need. And we do advertising, we do recruiting, and we bring in those applications, resumes, physical applications, you process them, and then you bring in people to interview. Right now, there's a lot of interviewing going virtual, as you can imagine, and we're doing that first. We are doing in-person interviews for certain positions as we get through the, maybe the initial phone call process, and then you hopefully will have an offer for somebody. That's how it eventually works.
All right, sounds great. Thank you for answering that. The next question would be, what are automatic turnoffs for you on a candidate's resume? What are the elements that immediately put them on to like the no pile?
I would say for me that it really depends upon the job, right? So if you're looking for somebody that you want them to meet certain qualifications, you need to see those qualifications on that resume or pointed out on that resume with a cover letter. But outside of that, if you've got someone that has a misspellings, if you have someone whose resume is 10 pages long, I don't have time to look through a 10-page resume. I'm not going to. And so you do want somebody to really kind of sell themselves initially for a more qualified job through that cover letter. If it's someone like a recent graduate, a cover letter is great, pointing out what we're looking for and how they can pull themselves into the position. But you do look for, immediately I look for their education. I look for their GPA. If someone doesn't list their GPA, that is a red flag to me as to why, particularly for someone that you're looking for with no experience right out of college. I do want to know what their GPA is. And, if their resume is just a mess, I'm taking it out. I'm putting it in my C-stack, which my C-stack means it's just not going to happen, right? So those are the immediate things as it relates to someone just graduating from college. Check those misspellings. Make sure that you've got your GPA. Make sure that your resume is easy to read, because that's what we're looking for. That's what I'm looking for anyway.
Okay, thank you.
So for me, the first thing I'm looking at is, do they meet our requirements? What we have posted. I am in agreement with Samantha there. If it's a long resume, are they trying to oversell themselves? What are they doing exactly? Misspellings. The cover letter is always great, but I want to be sure that when they're doing their resume, you can take a resume and you can change it just a little bit to go for another position. And I've had individuals who have taken resumes or cover letters and left the other company that they were applying to on it. That kind of, sets things off like, okay, they're really interested in me. Phone numbers, okay? Are your phone numbers correct? Are they individuals, if you've given us numbers, is it something that we can reach back to? And I like to see some things about the person themselves a little bit.
Yeah.
Them to kind of just give us some brief descriptions or give me an idea. I look at GPA somewhat, but not as much, because I like to see the well-balanced person, and they may be doing a lot of extracurricular activity that may be very, very important, you know, especially at the college level. What are some of the things they're doing? Are they volunteering? I look very specifically at that work history. What have they done? If they haven't had a work history, what have they volunteered? Where have they been? If they haven't volunteered or done anything, but they've got all straight A's, then it makes me wonder, can they multitask? Those questions begin to run through a person's mind. And then, of course, if it's easy to read, if I can find what I need to do, you know, I see probably 50 to 75 applications a day. And with those, many of them have resumes, and you're going through at such a fast pace. You're looking for the thing that really is queuing out what that job is and how can that person meet that job.
Perfect. Sounds great. Thank you, Sydney. To the next question, what styles or formats of resumes are especially effective when looking through it?
Well, I looked at y'all's resumes that you presented.
Oh, yeah.
I did enjoy the modern classic. I enjoyed that one. The modern graphic was okay. It's a little much if I had to print it, but I thought it was pretty nice. I wasn't too keen on what was called Simply Pink College, just because it was missing some stuff that I'd like to see on it. But I look for things like, once again, their education, their experience, what they've been doing, if they have specific skills, if they've received any honors, different things like that. I don't want something, I mean, I've had resumes dropped off where they've sprayed perfume on them, you know, they've had misspellings, things like that. To me, that's a turnoff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I agree, totally agree with the assessment. Modern Classic was, this is a great example of something that I can look at for less than 10 to 15 seconds and know that I'm going to spend a little bit of quality time of looking at this one. I'm fine with the one that was called Matching, I think, but there's a lot of blankness in that one, so it needs to be filled out some more, but the format of it is pretty sound. I do like to see at the very somewhere near the top of it there a person's name, address, phone number, LinkedIn, and their email address. And I 100% agree. Make sure you've got the right phone number on there, and make sure that you have your voicemail message with your phone number is professional, because sometimes, you know, it could be somebody saying, hey, what's up? Leave me a message. You need to be professional if you're out job hunting. You know, the Modern Graphic was just a little busy for me. Yeah. It's hard to follow, so I would not use that one. The Simply Pink, I think that one would be okay if somebody was going into marketing, something that needed a little splash and pizzazz, if you will. That it stood out, but I will tell you, for me, in my industry, this one would scare me a little bit because we are not real splashy, right? We're just not. So, but somebody that's going into a marketing position, I would use something similar to that, because it does draw your attention to it. And the Modern Purple, I'm okay with that. That is not one of my favorites either, to be honest. But again, I'm back to the basics, right? Modern Classic and Matching, to me, were the two that I would use in a professional format.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and show those resumes so the students know that what we're talking about. Since we're already on the subject of those, I'm gonna go ahead and share my
Sorry,
screen.
Yasmin, we got a little bit ahead of you.
No, you're good. I'm gonna go ahead and just pull those up so they know what we're looking at. this was the modern classic sample that you guys were talking about. Can you guys see that?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. What was it that you guys liked about this one?
It's easy to follow. It's very organized. It punches out of the gate this person's name, the information for us to get in touch with them. It pulls out immediately this person's bilingual.
Yeah.
Awesome, right? That's a great skill set. Then you look into and I'm thinking about somebody right out of college, right?
Yeah.
So you see their education. They got their GPA on there, which I do like to see. And then you go down to related experience, and then you go down to their extracurricular activities. That is what I want to see for somebody that is recently graduated from college looking for a job. That's what I want to see right there. This one right here is my favorite. Yeah. And I do know this is very similar to the format. We recruit quite a bit from Wake Forest. This is very similar to the format they push out to their students. So I like this one.
Good, good.
And this was my favorite as well.
Really? Yeah, it's pretty organized and pretty well laid out and simple to follow.
Yep.
And then the next one was the modern graphic resume.
And I was okay with that one. I could follow it. If I had to print a lot of these, I'd be in big trouble probably. But it's a little distracting. That was all.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with exactly what you're saying. Yes, it is distracting to me. I hate to say it, but to me, this one is telling me this person doesn't have enough to fill up a regular resume. I'm just that's immediately what I thought of whenever I saw it.
And then the next one was the modern purple sample.
Yeah, this one is okay. I think that I do like the fact that you can see the information to how to reach this person right up in the upper right-hand corner. I think the name is too big. Takes up way too much space there. And I don't know about how others feel about this, but when somebody's coming out of college, I just don't really. Their objective, they don't even know what their objective is to find a job, So I don't even know if I'd put that on there if I were just a recent graduate. I think you can cover that with a little bit more emphasis in your cover letter.
Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, this one was, to me, is why I agree completely with Samantha. It was a little distracting. The name was big. The last name was very bolded. Mm-hmm. Think they could have given more information, and there was a few things that I thought would have been even more interesting to see, that they could have told us a little more. Whenever we looked at it, we could see it very quickly.
Next one was the simple pink.
This is the one that I said that if it was somebody that was going into graphic design or something where you needed a little bit more flash, right? Because you can add that little strip of color in there. Yeah. But for me, because of the nature of our business, it would worry. This would immediately trigger me to ask myself, would this person fit into our environment? If they were more creative in the fashion forward type of business. Hanes is a very an old business, and this is just something that I'm not saying I wouldn't look at it. I'm saying I'd have to talk to somebody about this.
For myself, there's some open spaces on it. I have to hunt for the information.
Yeah. Agreed.
Actually my least favorite. This one was.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't tell me a lot.
Yeah.
The skills, it took me a little bit to figure out that those skills must mean, what's the grid on a 1 to 100 or whatever they were trying to measure where they were at. I don't know.
That was the 4 resumes. Or I think this is one of them. Oh yeah, the matching one.
Mm-hmm. And the matching one's a good one. That's a good one.
I liked it too. It's simple, but I thought they could have put a little more on it.
I agree. It's a lot of blank space, right? I agree 100% on that. You should fill it up, but make it relevant, I guess is the best point I could say.
Yeah.
But all of these, none of them went to a second page, which I think is for me, is very important.
Yeah.
Agreed, 100%.
Well, thank you for looking at those for me. Okay, so we'll continue with the questions. Do you review candidates' LinkedIn profiles?
I absolutely do. I do. I look at it. I want to, and again, it depends upon really the position, right? But if it's a professional position, I do look at it. I like to see where they've been in the past, see a little bit about what they support, right? What they're attached to. So I do like to look at somebody's LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
I looked at LinkedIn, I look at Facebook, anything that I have an opportunity that I can look at. And I will also share that my managers, when they're looking at an applicant, they're looking as well.
Yeah.
I will actually copy somebody's LinkedIn profile and their professional profile, and I'll send it to our managers whenever we're interviewing people, just so they can see what else is outside of their resume, what else they've been interested in, and what else they're doing.
Yeah, well, that's really good to know, because I didn't even know that a lot of people would look at the LinkedIn. So that's good to know. Okay, for the next question, do you search for candidates on their social medias? Is that something you guys look at?
We do. My management team, whenever they're looking, many times they'll look as well behind me. But yes, I think that's something that's going to predict a lot of information. And I tell students many, many times, even my own children, keep it clean, keep it nice. Think about what you've got out there. I'm sure there's a lot of people that would like to get some information off that they put up not thinking about it.
Yeah.
Whenever you get to a certain point in your life, you need to look back on your social media and ask yourself, and think of a grandmother that you love and adore, but that's the person that you want to see your profile, your Facebook. And if your grandmother couldn't see it, then you don't need to have it out there for the world to see it. Whenever you're in a professional setting, it would blow your mind. And it maybe not, Yasmin, but it just shocks me sometimes what people will put out there, and then be, whenever you have to talk to somebody about something, they're just taken aback that you would even ask them about something that they've posted or something that's happened.
Yeah, I agree. I know I have a friend that works at a law firm, and they're having people come in to interview. And the list of the people that they interviewed, they were looking at everyone's social media. And he was telling me that some people had some really rough things on their social media. And that kind of like put them to the no side on who to hire. So I can see that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but you just need to clean it up. You need to be professional and have out there, what that your employer can see. I mean, because we do see it.
Yeah.
We see it. And for us, many of our positions have licensures or certifications. And some of those organizations are also looking at it to see what people are doing. Are they going to represent, a nurse in the way they want them to be represented?
Yeah. And on the same topic, what are some of the turnoffs that you guys see whenever you do see someone's social media?
Well, I would say that you need to be, if there's a lot of drinking, partying, if there is, just how your attire is, that's something that you know, do you want everybody to see you in a bikini, you know, or you know, half naked on your Facebook page?
Yeah.
That, you know, that's something that that you just have to ask yourself. I will tell you, I respect that young people have a life, and they had a life in college and in high school. I do respect and appreciate that. You just have to ask yourself, if you know, put yourself in somebody else's shoes and take a look at it and just see whether or not it's something that you just think is professional.
Yeah.
I agree completely. Probably what I would look for is, you know, if they're partying, there's one thing, but if they're showing themselves, ha ha ha, how drunk I am, this, that, and the other, that can be bothersome to me. Yeah. But also I look for drama. Is there a lot of drama on there? Because if there's a lot of drama there, what's going to come into the workplace?
Yeah. Right. I agree. And, you know, and I hate, and, you know, I know that sometimes we've seen people, you know, do illegal drugs, I mean, out there and promote violence. And, you know, we just don't need that.
Yeah, I agree. So we've touched this a little bit before, but how important is the GPA for candidates?
I think we're probably a little bit differing opinions here, but I will tell you that we took a look at the people that were successful at Haynes. Okay, I'm talking all the way to our president, and we know what his GPA is across our organization, the people that are successful. And we determined that, you know, there's a certain level of GPA that we need at our company for the people to be successful. Now, I will tell you, it's not a 4.0. That's not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is for somebody that, you know, has a pretty strong GPA, but they have a story with it. I want to hear their story about it. I'm okay if somebody struggled their first couple years to get their sea legs under them, if you will, in college, and then they killed it, you know, their junior and senior year, just, you know, had a great run with their grades. But if they struggled later on, what's the story? So we do dig deeper into it to try to understand what happened. I do take a look at people's transcripts. I talk to people about, can you tell me why you struggled in accounting, right? And so we discuss those things about somebody's grades. But once you've been out in the workforce for, I would say, 4 or 5 years, it doesn't matter. It's your work history that matters. It only matters to us when we're hiring you right out of college.
Yeah.
And for me, it's not as much if I see that extracurricular, but it is about the story. And that was part of what I was talking about on the resume. Yeah. You're seeing the full picture of what's going on with that individual. I've actually interviewed a person that had more like a 2.5, 2.75, not the greatest, but when come to find out, their parents had died and they raised brothers and sisters while going to college. That's, you know, that's a hard worker. Yeah. So whenever you stop and look, there is a story behind it.
Yeah. And to our last question, what can candidates do to stand out from the competition, either on the resume or other ways prior to the interview?
I would say on their resume, for me, I want to see that they've had some type of experience. I want to see that they have worked an internship. If they worked fast food, I want to see that they had a little bit of gumption while they were in college to do something. Or, to the other point, you know, were they a student athlete? I get the fact that that is a job in and of itself, right? So I want to see that. I want to see as much as the whole person as I can. Part of their grades, you know, where do they go to college, and then some of that experience that they may have had. And it's not just about school. It's about life. That's a little bit about life. That's what I want to see.
And I agree completely. You know, were they an athlete? Were they working? Did they do volunteer work? I like to see if for us, they can do a resume, a cover letter, and an application. We really have the application. The resume is uploaded from there. I want to see that they match.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's a big deal to me, that this match is, and what they are telling me is fitting in. So that's what I'm going to focus in on, that information right there.
Yeah, great. Well, that was all for my questions. If there's any additional questions from students, we'll open the floor to that, and we'll see if we can answer those. Okay, so someone said, when do you suggest that a candidate disclose if they have a disability? And they said, do they disclose that on the cover letter, or what do they do?
No, I would not disclose it on a cover letter. What I will tell you, that we are a publicly traded company and we are an affirmative action company. There is actually a form that we send out as part of our protocol that an employee, or a candidate, excuse me, can identify if they have a disability. At the end of the day, let's say, for example, that someone, I'm trying to think of something where they may need to, maybe they're in a wheelchair, right? And my customer service group may be upstairs, okay? That's where they physically work at. They could just tell me, if I'm interviewing them over the telephone, and even what we're doing right now, right? I wouldn't be able to see that. But they could just ask me, is there a way, can you tell me what the setup is in the office? And if I said that we have 2 floors, customer service is upstairs, they could say something to me, is there a way for me to get up there besides using the stairs? And we would say, yes, there's an elevator, right? So we could have that discussion. I will tell you, I think this is one of those things that's, there's a lot out there right now on disabilities, and there's so many more disabilities that are now that people can identify with. So we're trying to stay on the forefront of that. But at the end of the day, we just, you want to hire the most qualified person to come in and do the job. And I certainly would not put it in a cover letter.
Yeah.
Maybe whenever you've got that second interview, if there was something that you really felt like you needed to tell somebody, you could just be straightforward and just tell them, what you're dealing with, and let the person that's interviewing you just have time to reflect and think about how they can make an accommodation if needed.
Yeah, and that's the key thing. Are we able to make the accommodation for them? On our postings, we typically list the essential functions and physical demands for that specific position. I would not put it in on my application or anything along those lines. But there is one thing for us, and I'm sure Samantha has it as well. We do have a question about criminal background. And for us, that's very key, that they're truthful and answer that. We're very concerned over that.
And you're in healthcare, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I can certainly understand why that's a big deal. In our world, we are much more open than on that issue. We do take a look at someone. We do hire people sometimes that do have a background, but it needs to be a nonviolent, and there needs to be some distance in between the occurrence and where they're at this point in their life, because we're not in healthcare. It's not that type of environment that we have at Haynes. So we're a little bit more open-ended on that issue. But we certainly do ask about it. To your point, we ask about it because we want to know what we're dealing with.
Yeah. For us, there's some very specific things that might mean that their licensure is revoked or something.
Absolutely.
So that's what we have. So we do have some things, but we make it known very, very much from start to finish. I've interviewed deaf candidates before, and they made it known whenever we moved to the interview process, so I could be sure that I had an interpreter there to help. I want to be sure that we're meeting their needs and helping them.
Yeah. Another question that came in said, some students are involved in political organizations, especially in today's political climate. Should they leave those involvements off their resume?
You know, it doesn't bother me if they're passionate about something. You know, it's, you know, what you have to be aware of is when you put something like that on there, there can be a discussion about it, right? I mean, that's what you're saying. I'm willing to discuss this with somebody when you put it out there in that type format. But you know, the thing in a workplace environment, knowing that things are so delicate right now, is that people are very apprehensive about having communications about, you know, the things that are really hot button issues, because you're coming to work, and that's what you're getting paid to do. So we really, I tell people, you know, don't talk politics, don't talk religion in work, because there are going to be people that have differing opinions, and that can be a very emotional, hot button issue for people.
Yeah. And see, for me, for the resume, this is your opportunity for a job. So I'm not quite sure why it would be put on a resume. Because I would think that that could be somewhat of a distraction.
Right.
Sort of. I would focus on what makes this, why would I be the candidate for this job? And you're going to be looking at their prior experience, what they've done, their GPA, different things along those lines.
Another question said, what if a candidate has a gap year on their resume? For instance, some students lost an internship opportunity to COVID last summer. Does that reflect negatively on them?
No, it does not.
No, not for us, because we know in healthcare, a lot of the students have not gotten to do the clinicals that they normally would do, which is very beneficial for them and for us as well. And no, it is not. And we've tried to look at other ways to help individuals. You know, we have to stop and think. Everybody will remember 2020.
That's correct.
And probably part of 2021. So we know that that's out there and that's happening.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, it's been a challenging year, and it's not one that's going to be lost on probably anybody in this discussion right now, for sure. And you know, we would just talk to somebody about it. And this also happened during the previous Great Recession that we had in our country, where people had a year or a little bit longer where they did not, you know, they did not have any opportunity to work. You did see people volunteering. You saw people going back and getting their masters at that point in time, you know, sharpening their credentials, if you will. They're just were not jobs available or internships available. So no, we do not. We understand that things take place that can knock them out of that opportunity.
Yeah. Another question, both of you mentioned the importance of a one-page resume. What would you advise a student to do who has a longer document with what they feel is important experience?
You need to have somebody like us look at it and whittle it down.
Yeah.
You need to whittle it down. And they're probably very proud of their accomplishments. I get that, but you got to just start picking it apart and pulling out the stuff that you don't need in there.
Yeah, I agree completely. Whittle it down, keep it to that one page. Don't get too wordy, but also make sure that resume reflects what you really want to get across and what the job is.
And I will tell you that LR has a great resource, you know, with Katie's group that will look through resumes and get them sharpened up, and she is excellent at that. And Yasmin, I'm not sure if that, you know, if you fall in that bucket too and help people through that, but you guys do an awesome job, and you can help them. They need to use the resource. They have resources available. Use those resources.
Yeah. And then any other advice for college graduates to be competitive in a competitive job market?
I say don't give up. Don't get discouraged. Right now, you know, Samantha spoke about the recession, but right now some areas are not hiring. So there may be other opportunities. We encourage people to do shadowing in our organization so they can see what the job really is. You know, I think that's the key thing. There are some employers that still aren't out of this yet, and they're not able to hire the way they normally would. So don't give up.
I agree with you. You know, you got to keep looking, keep searching. You may not, you may have in your mind that you want a dream job, and that dream job might not be available to you right now. I will tell you that if I talk to somebody that said to me, I went and took this job because I needed to work, and I needed, this was the only opportunity I could find in the market that we were in at the time, that goes a long way with me. At the same time, it could be that you just, you know, you keep networking with people and make sure that you get out there and rub elbows with people whenever you have opportunities. You know, even on, you know, virtually, make sure that you get out there and people see your name and you tell people that you're looking for a job. That's how people find jobs oftentimes.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as interviews, what are some things that candidates can do to be successful and effective?
I say practice in front of a mirror, pull down, we use behavioral questions.
Yeah.
You can pull many of those off the internet, practice, think about it, research the company, know what they're about, know what the job is about. I've had people ask me, well, what's this job that I've applied to? Well, that's a turnoff automatically. If they've applied to something and they don't even know what the job was and it's clearly stated, or if they say things like, you know, I've applied to about 30 different places, you know, that be careful what you say.
Yeah.
I would say that 100% research the company. Oftentimes, you know, I work at Hanes Companies and people come in and they think that we're the underwear company. It's not the underwear company. And as soon as they tell me that, I know they didn't do their homework, right? I know it coming out of the gate. Again, I would tell you, you have an opportunity to sell yourself. Practice selling yourself. Practice your pitch. Ask for the job. When you're done with, you know, whenever you've got an opportunity to meet with somebody in an interview, I would ask for that job. You know, I would really love to work here. I think I'm qualified. I would really like this opportunity. Is there anything standing in my way to keep me from getting this job? Ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, do most candidates send you thank you notes after the interview?
I get a lot of thank you notes.
Yeah.
If you were trained by Mrs. Dr. Dale King, you know that you send a thank you note, and it's important for you to send that thank you note. It's important for you to recognize that somebody gave you time out of their day to talk to you. And I will tell you that it doesn't mean that I'm not going to hire you, but it certainly lets me know that you know what you're doing, right? That you took that extra step to tell me thank you, and not just me, anybody in the organization that took the time to talk to you. You need to just shoot a quick email or a handwritten thank you note and tell them you appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.
It just adds a little bit of polish.
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Yes, I agree. And then, any other words of wisdom for our students regarding their career and professional development?
Watch what they have on their cell phones.
Oh, yes.
We call to leave messages. You know, there's things they may not want. Keep working hard. Follow up, but not too often. Find out how the recruiter reaches back out to you, what to look for, when to look for.
You need to ask what the next step is, right? What's the next step? And then you're right. You know, I get phone calls and I don't have time to talk to everybody that calls me and follows up on an interview. We will follow up with people. And you can actually put yourself in a negative light, you follow up too much with an interview, that's for sure. But I will say this, you are getting a solid education at Lenoir-Rhyne University, and you should be proud of it. You should own it, and you should sell it, because that's going to help you open doors. And you know, just know that you've got a leg up on a lot of people because you've got a solid education, and you need to be proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Well, that wraps up most of the questions. Thank you so much for Cindy and Samantha for joining us. And I'm sure this was very informational to students to hear the HR side and perspective to resumes and interviews and what to do or what to change. I just want to thank you guys for joining us.
Anytime. Thank you so much, Yasmin, for putting this together.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
Bye-bye.